So, welcome. Today, I want to talk to you about a very important topic, and it's all about how to trick your brain into loving hard habits without relying on motivation. So, first, I want to share with you a little story. Okay, there was a small town, and an old clockmaker had inherited a magnificent but broken clock tower. And the hands had stopped moving years ago, right? And no one could fix it. People had tried cranking the largest gear, right? Because that seems like that makes sense because that's the one that was moving the hands, but it wouldn't budge because it was simply too heavy. Well, the clock maker, he didn't try to force it. Instead, he examined the entire system of the gears inside. And at the base of the mechanism, he found a very small gear. It had rusted in place, but he cleaned it, gave it a gentle push, and then it started to turn. But slowly the gear caught another one, slightly larger gear, which then turned the next, transferring the energy up the system. And as each gear engaged, the force built up until finally the largest gear, the one everyone had tried to move directly before, began to turn on its own. Now the clock hands came to life, right? Really marking time once again. And this is exactly how habits work. So when people try to force massive life changes, working out daily, eating perfectly, waking up early, but they fail because they start with the largest gear. True change happens when you start with the smallest habits. Let's talk about this. So when you think about that, the smaller habits kind of energize the next habits and then the larger habits. And we'll use some examples here in a minute. But I just really want you to kind of begin this, to think of it as a habit gear system, right? Where when you start with the smallest habits that power the larger habits, which are larger actions, which really get the big habit, the one that you really are aiming for, to make it move effortlessly. And this is where the small habits drive those larger habits that create the momentum and the change, right? The life-changing momentum. So like in any system of interlocking gears, right, there is a smaller gear driving a larger gear creates two important effects. First, the larger gear rotates slower, right, than the smaller one, meaning change happens gradually but not all at once. Second, the larger gear moves with more force, meaning once it starts, it becomes nearly unstoppable. So remember, this is how this applies to habits. So small habits, they actually move very quickly. They are super easy to start. My little guy is happy here. And repeat frequently, just like a small gear spins faster. So this is going to go around much faster because it's easier, right? Now these small habits transfer energy to your larger habits, and over time they make the challenging behaviors easier to maintain. And now the larger habits move slowly but with more force. So once in motion, they become powerful self-sustaining behaviors. So instead of trying to think about moving the big gear directly, focus on spinning the small ones first. So let's talk about this kind of step-by-step examples. So let's add this to some common habits. First, we're going to show the small habits or the micro gears, and then move to the medium or the kind of the micro habits, so to speak. So you have the tiny micro steps, the micro habits, and then the macro habits, right? These are the drive this ultimate life change. So let's see, there's an exercise habit, right? So this is where we're looking at, we want to think about maybe we want to exercise an hour a day. So this is our goal. Exercise 1 hour per day. Okay, that's the big one that we want to see. But we're going to work our way down. So first, the micro gear, right? The tiny habit. This one spins the fastest. So this one could be, let's say, put on your workout clothes first thing in the morning. So we have some little workout clothes, or you lay them out so they're easy and accessible. You got some little shorts. You got some little tennis shoes. Yep. Anyway, maybe you do one squat a day, right? So then you're doing here and you're doing your squats and you're feeling strong, right? So maybe you do one squat or 10 squats. Maybe you step outside in your workout shoes. Maybe you walk around the block. Remember, the idea here is this gear moves quickly and easily, we're really requiring no effort. You got to think, what is the smallest, tiniest habit with the least amount of resistance that I can do? Now, what's next here is your medium or your larger micro habit. It's slower but more powerful. So now instead, let's say you walk for 5 minutes instead of just putting on your shoes. Maybe you do 5 push-ups before bed, right? Maybe you do a short 5-minute guided video workout. So these are maybe your 5-minute habits. You can think of it that way, towards your goal. Okay. Now, the macro gear, remember, this is the one that this is maybe as you move into it, again, this can even go into a much higher one. This will naturally expand. This 5-minute habit might go to 10, then it might go to 15, then it might go to 20. So imagine you have multiple gears just kind of adding 5 more minutes until you get to maybe 30 to 45 minutes to then the next thing you know, you're doing 60 minutes at a time. But you've slowly started, right? You started spinning, building this momentum with the small habit first. And so that's the really important thing here to understand. But what if we had some other type of goal? Okay, so maybe we want to eat healthy, right? So maybe we're going from a poor diet to, let's say, mindful nutrition. So many people try to overhaul their diet overnight, eliminating junk food, planning perfect meals, because they fail because, again, they're trying to move the big gear too quickly because it's too heavy, too much to do at once. So instead, let's start with the small gears. Okay, so your micro gear, your tiny habit that spins the fastest, you're going to maybe add 1 extra vegetable. Well, I wish I had an orange. Maybe it's carrot, right? So you're adding 1 vegetable, 1 veggie to dinner, right? Maybe you're drinking 1 glass of water a day, right? Or before eating. Maybe you're putting a bowl of beautiful fruit on your counter so it's readily available. Maybe this is a banana and you got a little orange here. Maybe you got some pears, apples, whatever. That would be your easiest tiny habit, easy to spin. Again, easy to implement. Your next gear would be let's say this one is we replace 1 unhealthy snack. Okay. Then maybe maybe 1 fully plant-based meal per day. Or maybe we slow down and chew our food more mindfully. Maybe, 20, 25 chews. That alone is huge, right? So this starts building the next momentum. Then you have your macro gear, right? So what's happening here is you built the consistency, which builds the momentum. And then that's where we see that, right? So now you start naturally choosing whole plant foods without effort, right? You feeling full and energized. You're eating healthy without the willpower, because healthy eating is no longer a struggle. The system works automatically. And what's happening also that's very important is your identity begins to shift. Okay? You're no longer someone who doesn't eat healthy. You're someone who chooses nourishing foods. And that's why I encourage people to identify themselves as habit healers. How are you creating healing habits, and how can you heal the unhelpful habits? So maybe there's some other ones like a focus or deep work. Maybe you're struggling with, let's say, distraction, and you want to move to productivity. Well, let's talk about that. Okay. I need to get a stand or something. Oh no, I'm a little purple. Anyway. Okay, so, most people, again, try to force themselves into long hours of deep work, and they mess up their sleep, but they fail because, again, their environment and habits work against them. So let's start with some small ones. So maybe the tiny habit is putting your phone on silent and out of reach. Maybe you close those unnecessary browser habits, or you open the document or task before doing anything else. That requires the least amount of effort. Now, what would be the medium or micro habit, or the little bit larger, is maybe set a 5-minute timer and work without interruption, right? So maybe use a to-do list with only 1 top priority. Maybe you block 30 minutes of focus sessions in the calendar, like an appointment. That starts to make the focus easier and more structured. And then your macro gear is really when, again, it moves with the most force. What you're going to find here is that focusing becomes more deeply natural, enjoyable, because you've gotten into the habit. You started with the least resistant, the smallest, easy to implement. It became a little bit easier. You kind of expand that naturally. And then before you know it, you've built this habit where you're spending hours of uninterrupted, high quality work with minimal resistance because you've overcome that initial and I guess resistance or where you're wanting to procrastinate, just getting started. So make it so small, so easy that it's easy to do. And now there's some secrets to keeping the habits moving regularly. First of all, even the best gear systems need maintenance. And that's really, really important because you don't want it to rust. So here's how to ensure that your habits stay in motion. Number one, expect some resistance. That's life. Things happen. The first two turns, again, are always going to be the hardest. That is normal. Just keep nudging the smallest gear and the system will pick up speed. 2, reduce friction. Make habits easy by preparing in advance. Set out your work clothes the night before. Prep healthy meals ahead of time. Block distractions before starting work. 3 is connect your gears. For habits to reinforce each other, you can link different habits. So pair drinking water with your morning coffee. Maybe link your deep breathing to opening up your laptop. Maybe attach a short walk to your lunchtime, right? And then next, finally, is avoiding gearing the jams. Avoiding gear jams. There we go. You're trying to push too many habits at once overloads the system, right? Just stick to one gear system at a time until it moves efficiently. But I think what you'll find is over time, it'll get easier and easier to build other gear systems or other habit systems. So just a few final thoughts. Remember, small gears create big change, right? So again, most people think that massive change requires a lot of effort. The truth is the smallest actions create the biggest shifts. So small gears spin really quickly and easily. The small gears turn into medium gears, and the medium gears drive the biggest habits in your life. You don't need more willpower. You don't need to force change overnight. You just need to turn that first small gear and let the momentum do the rest. So I ask you, what is the smallest habit that you can start today? Think about that. And if you're looking for some help on how to do this, especially around weight loss, I have a new webinar. And I'd love to share it with you. It's called How to Lose Weight Effortlessly Without the Dieting, the Willpower, or Counting Calories. There's going to be a few things that you're going to learn here. Secret number 1 is why trying harder will never work and what to do instead. Secret number 2 is you are not broken. You just haven't used this yet. And number 3 is hidden force, controlling your habits and how to use it to your advantage. It is very powerful. Completely free. The link is below. I'd love to see you there. You can have instant access. And man, I'm telling you, when you start focusing on habits and learn the system of how to create habit change, you can apply to any area in your life. But the one thing I do know for sure, when it comes to health, there's going to be certain habits like weight loss that we want to focus on. We want to know what systems will help us lose weight. Instead of focusing on the outcome, let's focus on the system and the habits that will actually support that goal or that outcome that you're looking for. It's a completely different, radical way of thinking about things. And really, once you develop these abilities and skills around habits, you can apply them to any area in your life. So I'd encourage you to check out the webinar because that's what I'm going to teach you. All right. Thanks again to everyone for being here. And as always, sending love, joy, and healing your way. And I will see you next time.